Okay, so we're gonna have to, I make a motion to come out of executive session. Could I have a second?
I'll second it.
Thank you, Mr. Wallace. Okay, Mr. Dorr,
Yes.
Dr. Kukunis,
Yes.
Ms. Healy,
Yes.
Ms. Zahowski,
Yes.
Mr. Wallace,
Yes.
and myself is a yes. So now we're in in regular session. I welcome everybody. We got
Hello.
a good presentation for you tonight. However, we're gonna stand for the pledge. That's not right.
Your calendar.
That's not the flag, Sam.
That's not the flag.
Oops.
Whoa.
Or just start the pledge. I'll have to catch up in a second.
Just start the pledge?
Yeah.
Okay. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic
for which
for
it
which it
stands,
stands, one nation,
under
under
God,
God,
indivisible,
indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, first we gotta amend our agenda. We gotta go to the last after D. We're gonna add letter E like in Edward. And it's a new item. It's to be resolved that the Board of Education of the Riverhead Central School District hereby authorizes its legal counsel to file a notice of claim and eventual lawsuit against the town of Riverhead for the failure of the town to pay the school district the entire 2019-2020 school year tax levy by June 30th, 2020, as required by law. So that's added on. And the next thing is, Ms. Tona, we will now conduct a public hearing of the 2020-2021 adopted budget. I therefore declare this meeting open at 7:24. If there are no objections from the board members, I would offer the floor to Christine Tona, interim superintendent, who will deliver a brief presentation on the budget that will go before the voters for approval or disapproval on July 28th. Ms. Tona?
Thank you. Give me 1 second. There we go. All right, good evening, everyone. Tonight we're here for the 2020-2021 budget hearing. So we have a revote to be held 1 week from today on July 28th from 6 a.m. to 9 p.m. By Governor Cuomo's executive order, in-person voting will take place. Voters can vote at the K-4 school for which your address is zoned. Absentee ballots are also being accepted. If you would like an absentee ballot, at this point you must come to district office to pick it up no later than July 27th. And we must receive all absentee ballots no later than 5 p.m. on July 28th. And there is a drop box located in front of the district office. So our agenda for this evening, we're going to look at enrollment trends, budget to budget reductions, proposed expenditure budget, anticipated revenue budget, contingent budget. Then we have some frequently asked questions and important dates and voter information. So here you see our student enrollment trends. Looking at these over the past 11 school years, you can see that our student enrollment has increased by over 1,000 students. Our English language learner population has more than tripled. Our special education population has also increased by approximately 200 students. Where many other districts have been experiencing declining enrollment, Riverhead has seen a large increase. So looking at these numbers, over the 11 years, we've seen a 21% increase in total enrollment. a 33% increase in students with disability, and a 269% increase in English language learners. When the Board of Education adopted the 2020-2021 budget, this budget included the elimination of 10 positions that had been included in the previous year's budget. These positions include 3 administrative positions, 2 AIS math positions, 1 social worker, 1 ENL teacher position, 1 clerical position, 1 maintenance position, and 1 transportation office position. Reductions in equipment and materials and overtime for non-instructional personnel were also included in this budget. The elimination of positions and the reductions were necessary to remain within the property tax cap. And staying within the property tax cap has been this board's guiding principle since the property tax cap law was enacted in 2011. So this slide shows our total proposed expenditure budget. General support includes the people who work in the district office, as well as custodians, maintenance, security guards, and it also includes property and casualty insurance. This area supports the main operation of the district, which is educating children. We are reducing the total expenses in this area for the 3rd year in a row in order to put more money in the areas that support direct student instruction. Instruction and administration includes anyone or anything that's involved with educating our students: personnel, textbooks, materials, and supplies. This area also includes charter school tuition, which in 2020-2021 will cost this district more than $8 million. Transportation, since the enrollment has been increasing in the district, our transportation needs have increased. We don't just transport students to our 7 district schools, but also to the charter school and to private and parochial schools in the area. We transport more than 6,500 students per day. Benefits and debt includes health insurance, TRS, ERS contributions, Social Security, and TAN and BAN interest. This slide shows the side-by-side comparison between the 2019-2020 budget and the proposed budget. The total budget is $147,124,895, which represents a budget-to-budget increase of 1.87%. The property tax levy is 2.21%, which is below the New York State property tax cap for our district. I want to point out 2 other things. First, regarding the state aid in green, we are anticipating a mid-year reduction of up to 20% as per comments that Governor Cuomo recently made attributed to the pandemic. Should this reduction occur, we are planning to use our reserves to make up this difference. This is in addition to the use of approximately $3.5 million of reserve funds that have been already earmarked for the 2020-2021 budget. The second item in pink includes revenue from shared service transportation contracts with 6 neighboring districts. So this slide explains what a contingent budget is. Under contingency, we must operate with no increase to the tax levy for homeowners. However, since many budgetary costs still increase in any given year, we must eliminate or reduce items contained in the budget so that we stay within the contingent budget amount. There are 3 important rules to a contingent budget. There can be no equipment purchases, there will be no raises for individually contracted staff, and the tax levy can be no higher than the previous year's tax levy. Many people are wondering what the difference is between the proposed budget and a contingent budget. For the average assessed home, the contingent budget will cost the homeowner approximately $110 less per year. So for $110 per year, what are we getting? Let's take a look at the proposed cuts. So in our contingent budget, if we need to go to a contingent budget, we will know next week, the entire athletics program would be eliminated, as well as after-school clubs and after-school music performances. Because we will have no after-school activities, we don't need to have after-school buses, so there's a savings there. We're looking to reduce computer technology, some high school electives. We're reducing some of our science program and reducing some of our elementary literacy program. And we're reducing our auto and building maintenance. Unfortunately, the reductions due to contingent budget will have an impact. We must reduce the budget by approximately $2.1 million. Community members have been asking about athletics and extracurricular activities and the possible closures due to the pandemic. We know that there is no substitute for in-person instruction, and we hope to have in-person instruction during the 2020-21 school year to the extent possible. We hope that our students will have the opportunities to participate in athletics and extracurricular activities, but under a contingent budget, those will be eliminated. With the pandemic, we are preparing for modified in-person instruction as our school districts around the country. However, if Riverhead has a contingent budget, our students will not participate in athletics or extracurricular activities, even if other districts are able to. So we've been asked quite a few questions recently, so we thought we would add these to this presentation. How many times can a school district present a budget for vote? Twice. New York State designates that specific dates for these budget votes are held and the specific dates for budget revotes. This question came up a lot. Why is Riverhead holding 3 votes this year? In February, we had a capital project bond vote. This was not a vote for the school budget. That vote was not passed. The capital project is not moving forward. That is completely separate from the vote for the school budget. In June of 2020, all school districts in New York State presented their annual school budgets to their communities. Riverhead was one of 3 school districts on Long Island where the voters did not pass their budget. Therefore, here we are in July of 2020, and Riverhead is putting forward a second vote, and we are required to hold our election next Tuesday, July 28th. Why is the Board of Education proposing the same budget for the revote as was the budget voted on in June that did not pass? The Board of Education concluded that the original budget had the students' best interests in mind as it maintained academic programs, athletics, and extracurricular activities, and this budget is within the New York State property tax cap. Why is the voting and absentee ballot process different for the revote in July than it was for the June vote? All school districts in New York State followed the governor's executive order for the June school budget vote. During that vote, districts were required to mail ballots to all residents, and in-person voting was prohibited. For the revote next week, the governor's executive order mandates that an in-person election be held. However, voters may request absentee ballots so that they don't have to vote in person. Again, July 28th, next Tuesday, voting in the local polling locations from 6 a.m. to 9 p.m. And if you wish to obtain an absentee ballot, you can go to our website or you can call our district clerk at 631-369-4724. And if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to me. I thank you for your time this evening, and we encourage you to exercise your right to vote on Tuesday, July 28th. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Toner. Does anybody on the board have any questions or comments? Not seeing that. Ms. Toner, could you read out loud the comments or questions that we have received from the public, that it has to do with this hearing?
Sure, and thank you for everyone for submitting comments and questions to us. We appreciate that. So the first is from Valerie D'Alessio from Riverhead. Obviously, the Board of Education did not hear the voices of the majority who voted no to the last budget vote. I say that because it is my understanding that no changes were made to the budget that will be voted on again on July 28th. Our pensions are fixed. There are no cost of living increases. We are lucky that we have pensions. Many seniors do not. You cannot expect the public to be a bottomless pocketbook for the school district. What has the district done to ensure that the children who attend our schools actually live in the district? Why do we have such a tremendous increase in enrollment? When we register students, do we require 3 proofs of residency? Regarding rental homes, does the district require the property owner sign an affidavit with the lease, listing all the names of the tenants within that structure and their ages? Has the district began a policy of having a property owner sign an affidavit saying that if their tenants leave, the homeowner will notify the school district, understanding that if they do not, they will be responsible for paying transportation and educational expenses for those students? Has the district done anything regarding these concerns, which were the subject of an article published March 6, 2020 in the Riverhead Local entitled, "Overcrowded Houses, Overcrowded Schools, What Can the Town and the School District Do?" Has anything been done with the district and the town working in cooperation with each other to address these issues? I hope the Riverhead School Board can report on some progress being made in this area. Thank you for your consideration. Ms. Downs, do you want to respond or you want me to take the questions?
Well, go ahead. This is, our registration is done by law, exactly what the law tells us to do. We're doing that, that's fine. We have no authority over housing. We do have authority over making sure that the children live in our district, which we do, and we're going to continue to do. Ms. Toda, wasn't there something that we were going to start next year, pick up the pace on?
We're going to start with the August 4th board meeting. I'm going to include an update at each board meeting that talks about enrollment and registration. And we'll also report on any notification that we get of the possibility of a family not living within the district. We can't give specifics, but we'll tell you how many reports we had for that time period. And then 1 month out from there, we'll be able to share with the board and the community what was the outcome of that. So it could result in someone leaving the district or an investigation taking place that resulted in that family actually living within the confines of our school district. So we're definitely looking to be able to share that information on a more regular basis.
Thank you. Is there anything else you could add to this? This is a big question.
It is. I think we answered.
We're going to work with the town. We were planning on, and the pandemic came, and that had stopped everything. But we're still looking forward to it. As far as I understand, the town still wants to work with us. We all want to sit down, but because of the pandemic, that put a hold on a lot of stuff.
Mr. Venator, is there anything else that you'd like to add legally on this matter, or did we cover everything?
I think you covered everything. We have a registration policy that's been approved that had come under review a number of years ago. We did have to make changes so that we weren't in compliance and we didn't have issues. And so our registration policy has been vetted by other agencies and found to be appropriate and legally sound. That's essentially all I wanted to add.
Thank you. So the next question is from Sharon P. in Aqaba. What kind of funds are we going to need to cover all the PPE, extra cleaning equipment, and overtime shifts for custodial staff? Will money from a past budget go to these expenses in school opening? This budget needs to pass, and people are still angry about adult stuff that doesn't affect the kids. Fingers crossed people listen to why we need this budget to pass. Ms. Downs, you want me to respond?
Yeah, I would like to know too about the funds with the PPE.
All right, we have to work within the budget. So whether it's a contingent budget or the proposed budget from tonight's public hearing, that is the amount of funds that we have. We can, within that amount of funds, we can move things around if needed, but we also recognize that in this situation, this crisis, it's possibility that the funds that we have in the budget may not be enough to cover some of the expenses that we need in order to meet the safety of our students and staff as they come to school or if they're doing remote learning. So in those cases, if we don't have enough money within our budget, we would look to our reserves, our unallocated fund balance to make up any differences that should arise. Mr. Schneider, do you have anything to add to that?
I would only add that the district, as we've talked about many times, took the money that was left unspent at the end of the 1920 school year and put it into reserves simply because we did not know the extent of the financial cuts that we would have to make because of state aid. And luckily we have a number of reserves that we'll be able to lean on, as you just touched on, should we have unanticipated expenses this year.
Thank you. The next question is from Leah Petrugnani from Aquabog. If the budget does not pass again, is there any funding in the current budget to provide devices to all students K-12? Or is there funding in the proposed budget for this? Again, I think that the last response covers that. We know that if we need to provide devices to students, if we're on full remote instruction, we will work towards doing that. If we need to purchase additional devices, we look within our budget, and if we need more beyond that, we'll be looking towards our reserves to help us make that happen. But we recognize the importance of it. The next question is from Kathy Berezny from Riverhead. If the budget passes on July 28th and sports does not resume in September or the fall, what will you do with the money set aside for sports? Where will it be expended? Also, masks most likely will have to be worn. How will masks fit into the gym scenario during physical exertion? Will there be a need for physical education this school year? I ask this question because doing physical therapy and wearing a mask, it puts a strain to breathe. Okay, so let's take this in parts. Regarding athletics, New York State, they're looking to start possibly September 21st with delayed start. If that doesn't happen, if the decision is made that it's not safe to start athletics in the fall, they're looking at a January start for winter sports, a March start for fall sports, and an April start for spring sports. So we won't know if sports will be completely canceled until we get to the spring or to the winter. So any money that is in the budget for athletics that would be in the budget for revote, like Mr. Schneider said, that money would be at the end of the school year put into reserves and used moving forward for a future year. If we're on contingency, that money will not be contained within the budget. So we'll know that next week after the budget vote. Regarding physical education, State Education Department released information, a very lengthy document last Thursday, explaining how school districts need to plan for the next school year. Physical education was addressed. It is important in their mind and in our minds that physical education continue, whether the students are in person or remote. If they are in person, the recommendation goes from 6 feet of social distancing to 12, but the state is recommending that there be adjustments made so that students can do more individual type of physical education rather than team sports, so that students can be promoting a healthy lifestyle and exercise and physical well-being. So they won't be wearing masks in physical education, but they will be socially distanced and will be outside as often as we can. Next question from Kathy Berezny. If a budget is defeated, why can't you move money around to make sure services are not taken away from students? Music, art, sports, and electives make a well-rounded student. We as a district know our financial plight, and scaring parents pitting against one another is unacceptable. You have expended $9.7 million in reserves and have $15 million altogether. How do we pay for all of the escapades that we have been doing and can't afford a well-rounded education for students? Ms. Downs, do you want me to take that one?
Sure.
Okay. It's the opinion of this district, and I think I speak for the Board of Education when I say that a well-rounded student is what we want. We want to be able to offer every opportunity to every student in the district. We can't just move monies around. We have to adopt a budget, and we have to live within that budget. So we recognize that we don't want to take anything away from students, but this is the situation that we're in, and after the revote next week, we'll know what the budget will look like. It is not our intention to pit people against each other. It's not a scare tactic. This is reality. We have to adopt a budget. When the budget fails, we have to adopt a contingent budget, And there are rules set aside for contingency, and we have to follow those. Mr. Schneider, anything to add on that?
No, I think you've covered it all this time.
Thank you. Allison Matway from Wading River. I'm wondering when or if we will see the Board of Education trustees more vocal and visible in their support for passing the budget. Ms. Down?
Well, you can't be more vocal than putting it out there and having you vote on it. The board anonymously put it out there and approved it, so we're all for it. Any other board members?
I'm in favor of the budget. That's why it's back out there the way it was, the way we put it out originally. We want the children to have sports and theater and all the extracurricular activities that they do.
I also think it's important for the community to know that we can't, we can only encourage people to support the budget. We can't tell people how to vote. I'm in favor of the budget passing. I will be voting yes, and I hope that the community can support our budget. Thank you.
And I feel the same way too. Personally, I can say that I'm going to vote for the budget, and I have my vote yes on my front lawn. And I stand behind putting out the same budget, and I do understand other people's concerns.
I also support this budget very much. I think it's a fair budget. I think it's appropriate. It remains under the 2% cap that's mandated by the state. That's why I agreed to put it up again. It was a fair budget. As you can see in Ms. Tona's presentation, we did cut 3 administrative positions and some other positions out of this budget from last year. We listened to what you are saying. We took some administrative positions away. It's a very fair budget. Hopefully you can vote for it.
I as well support the budget. Otherwise I would not have, voted yes on the proposal. And I just hope that everybody, it's a smart budget for all the children in our district. And I just hope that everyone will come out next Tuesday and vote.
Okay, we're all in line. We're all voting yes.
Thank you. The next question is from John Woods from Aquabah. What cuts have been made within the district to help with any expenditures the district claims to be experiencing and or will experience? And is the budget for mandated expenses? The school budget is a combination of expenses that are mandated as well as expenses that enhance the education for students. So even if we move forward on a contingent budget next week, if that's the will of the public, there will still be some expenses contained in that budget that are not mandated, but we believe that they're important for students to have access to. So it's not a great situation to be in when you're on contingent budget because not everything can be offered to the students, but it does maintain many things for the students. And that's the goal of the school district, is to always offer opportunities for our students. Another question from John Woods. What steps are taken by the district to ensure that students are residents of the district, such as an affidavit by a landlord, utility bills, any official documentation for proof of residency? As was explained after the first question this evening, the district follows all steps required by New York State law to register students. And we will be providing more regular updates to the community about enrollment and residency concerns. This next question is from Maureen McKay from Aquabah. Community members seem hung up on the COVID savings, stating to reduce the budget by that amount. Would you please explain to the voters how the anticipated state aid cut by Cuomo will affect us? The state aid cut could be significant, and explain how any savings from COVID could help offset that. We had mentioned it earlier that any money that was left over in the 2019-20 budget was placed into reserves or will be placed into reserves. Right now, our auditors are still closing out our books for the 2019-20 school year, so we don't know exactly the amount of money that was saved in the 2019-20 budget. So once that's determined, those monies will be put into reserves. Yes, Governor Cuomo has indicated that there could be a state aid cut mid-year of up to 20%, and we would be taking money from the reserves to fill any gap in state aid that should occur at that time. So that's how we're using any savings from the past school year. Thank you for that question. The next question is from Sal Mastropolo in Calverton. At the end of every budget year, the district has a surplus from unspent dollars that are put into district funds. Yet despite the surplus, you continue to raise the next year's budget. This has resulted in an inflationary situation in the school budget. Why can't the district freeze the next year's budget when the previous year's budget has a surplus at year's end? Again, the reasons that we explained, we don't necessarily know exactly how much savings there is at the time of budget adoption in the spring of each year. So we don't know how much money it is until later in the summer. It's important that we remember that if we can freeze a budget, but expenses don't always freeze. There are some expenses that are contractual and things that increase on an annual basis. TRS contributions, health insurance, ERS contributions, those types of things we don't have control of. And by saying that they're necessarily going to fit into a property tax cap amount, let's say it's 2%, doesn't necessarily happen. Sometimes we get increases that are 8 to 10% in a particular area. And so it's very difficult to maintain the exact same budget from year to year. Mr. Schneider, do you have anything to add to that?
I would only add that I think, ending the budget year with some surplus is important because we simply just don't know when unexpected expenses are going to come up. We try to run the budget in general that we're going to end with approximately 3% of the budget unspent. It's simply budgetarily unwise, given the inflexibility of so many of our expenses, that we cut it any closer than that. And I recognize the concern that people have, but I'm trying to create a situation where we have as much stability from year to year. You don't want to be leaning heavily on reserves one year, because if you can't lean on the reserves the following year, you have a revenue hole that you have to fill and you have no way to fill it. So I think trying to keep things as steady and even as possible is the smart financial approach. And
as steady and stable as possible also helps with our rates for any borrowing that we have to do when we're waiting for monies to come in. So from Mr. Mastropolo again, does the district have any idea of how COVID-19 will affect the student population in the 2020-21 school year? Has the virus affected any students, and will the enrollment maintain the projected levels or go down as a result of students affected by the virus? We don't know exactly which students have contracted the virus, which families may have contracted the virus, who's been affected. That is not something that families need to share with us. So that's part of their own personal choice, whether they share, and we're not keeping track of the numbers of COVID cases amongst our families and students. So our enrollment right now, it holds pretty steady. So we're, like I said, we'll have an enrollment update at the August 4th and again in August 24th board meetings. So we'll be able to start keeping track of enrollment trends on a bi-monthly basis moving forward. And another question by Mr. Mastropolo. Increased student enrollment in the Riverhead School District is largely a result of the large number of unaccompanied alien children living in Riverhead and enrolled in the district. Is the district doing anything to address the problem of the county dumping huge numbers of unaccompanied alien children in the town of Riverhead and in our district, resulting in the need to increase our school budget to educate these students? We have no evidence that this practice is happening. Our role as a school district is to educate all children who reside within the confines of the school district. And if someone brings to our attention that they think that a family is not living in Riverhead, but the child is attending our schools, we will absolutely investigate that claim. So if anyone is concerned, you can reach out to me or Mr. Schneider. or to the Board of Education, and we will make sure that any concerns are investigated right away. Thank you. This is from Francis Roberts from Riverhead. As a resident of the district with 3 grandchildren in the schools, I have closely studied the budget. It is sound and the expenses are needed to support the education of the children. The budget deserves a strong yes vote. Thank you, Mr. Roberts, for your comment. From Yolanda Thompson in Bating Hollow. We know that reopening our school buildings safely, reconfiguring class sizes, schedules, transportation, reconfigurations, etc., is most likely going to cost a large amount of money. Has this been accounted for in the budget? If so, where will the monies be coming from? If not, why hasn't it been allocated for? We addressed this question earlier. Thank you for the question. We will work within the confines of our budget to meet the needs, and definitely there's different material and supply needs this year than in any other year before. But if we find that our current budget doesn't there's not enough in that budget to meet all of those needs, we will look at our reserves to make sure that we have all of the materials and supplies we need to keep our students and staff safe. Okay, from Christina Miller in Riverhead. Due to the fact that traditional school was not in session for 3.5 months last year, is there surplus monies left over that could be applied to offset this new budget? It stands to reason that with no sports or clubs and that related travel, no busing, maintenance, lower electricity, water usage, etc., there should be unused funds. And yes, Mrs. Miller, thank you for your question. There are unused funds. As we mentioned, we're waiting for our auditors to finish closing out the books, and excess funds will be placed in reserves. From Shannon Wrights in Riverhead. Does the proposed budget include the cost of purchasing the proper software for effective distance learning in the occurrence that we do not return to school full-time in the fall? What does the budget look like if we don't return to school full-time in the fall? Do we have a budget plan that accounts for all possibilities? And if not, how can we possibly vote on a budget that is just a what-if scenario at this current time? Also, does the budget account for paying 2 superintendent salaries for the school year? And has the district looked at changing the contractual language to ensure they are not put in a position that they are obligated to pay out a salary to a position that has resigned? There's a lot of questions here. Again, purchasing software that might be needed, it goes into the PPE and computer devices. We will work within our current budget. If we find that there are additional needs, we'll look at our reserves to make sure that we have everything we need for our students. The budget is the budget. So whether a new budget, the proposed budget is adopted next Tuesday, we live within that budget. If that budget is not adopted, we live within the current contingent budget. So those numbers are what they are. They can't be increased. If there's a shortfall, we can look to our reserves. Does the budget account for paying 2 superintendent salaries for the school year? Ms. Downs, do you want to take that one? You're muted.
Could you please repeat it?
Sure. Does the budget account for paying 2 superintendent salaries for the school year?
It's not 2 salaries. We're not paying 2 salaries. First off, our interim superintendent is not taking any extra money to act as interim. She's doing 2 positions while she's doing her regular job, and she's sitting in as superintendent for no additional cost to the district. So it's not 2 superintendent salaries. The other was a parting agreement, and it was legal. We approved it. Sam?
I'm going to defer to Mr. Venator for any comment on this.
Thank you.
I don't think that we should be commenting on the separation agreement. I think there are confidentiality concerns that preclude us from making any comment on that agreement.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on from Christina Miller in Riverhead. Are there any budget lines in this current budget proposal that address the fact that we do not yet know what the next school year looks like, and there are maybe expenses that are currently unknown? How will the district address any expenses related to safety protocols if there is no money allocated at this time? We've answered that question. Working within the budget, looking at reserves if necessary. And the last question for the public hearing from Edward Powers of Jamesport. With the district administration being in turmoil and no adjustment made to the proposed budget, what makes you think you can get community support? Ms. Downs.
What was that? Community support?
Yep. What, with the district administration being in turmoil and no adjustment made to the proposed budget, what makes you think you can get community support?
I don't think we're in turmoil. I think we're moving along just fine. And I believe that this community cares about their children. And because of that, they will definitely pull through. They've pulled through before. They know what the good and the bad of this is. They know what can happen if it fails. They know what we can do and what we can keep if it passes. And you know, as a resident of this district, I've always seen the community pull through for our children, whether they're your biological or not. They're still our children of the town of Riverhead. No, I believe it'll all be good. Anybody else?
That was the last question from the community related to the budget hearing.
Okay, does any board members have anything to add to any of this?
Nope.
Okie dokie. As a reminder to the public, the budget vote is July 28th. The polls are going to be open from 6 a.m. to 9 p.m. at 4 voting locations. You will vote at the elementary school where a child that could be living in your house would have gone to school or does go to school. And you could also call 369-4724 if you're interested in obtaining a absentee ballot. And seeing no one else wishing to participate, I hereby declare this hearing closed at 8:04. So now, Ms. Tona, could you please give a re-entry update?
Thank you, Mrs. Downs. Tonight, I'd like to provide an update regarding our district's reentry plans for September. We have assembled a district reentry task force with 6 subcommittees, which includes administrators, teachers, staff members, and parents from the community. We have also asked families to complete a survey to provide the task force and committees with additional information to assist us in planning. Our district plan is due to the State Education Department by July 31st. This plan will also be posted to our district website. For now, our committees are working diligently to explore all options for reentry, always with the safety of our students and staff at the forefront. And now I'd like to just pull up quickly. Give me 1 second. I want to put something up on the screen. Okay. So I hope you can see right now the Family Reentry Survey summary. So I'd like to share several components from our family survey results. So as of today, we had 1,575 responses. So thank you to all that participated in this important survey. Some questions that I want to highlight, because our committees are using the results from this survey to help guide our plans, our reentry plans. So one of the questions was, how concerned are you about your children being exposed to COVID-19 at school? 55% were very concerned, 30% are somewhat concerned. So Definitely an overwhelming majority of people are concerned about the risks to their children, as are we. Provided students can return in the fall, do you anticipate allowing your children to return to school with proper social distancing guidelines in effect? Approximately 10% of those surveyed felt that they were not comfortable sending their children. 59% are, and 31% are unsure. And we totally understand the uncertainty at this time. Provided students can return to the school buildings in September and transportation is provided following social distancing guidelines, how likely are you to send your children on the bus? 23% of those surveyed said they will not send their children on the bus. 33% definitely will, and 36% are unsure. And if students attend school for only a partial day or a partial week, please describe your childcare needs. 56% of those that responded said they don't have any childcare needs. 25% said they need childcare but can arrange it themselves. And 19% need childcare and need assistance with those arrangements. Give me 1 second. Okay. So based on this information, along with the other information from the survey, we are planning for school to be open in September. However, we anticipate that this will be with social distancing. Because of our strong enrollment numbers, we will not be able to have every child attend school every day. This district, like many others, is looking at a hybrid model that is a combination of in-person learning and at-home learning. We recognize that there is no substitute for in-person learning, but we also recognize that students need contact with their teachers and with their peers. We will provide an option for families who wish to keep their children home to continue with remote instruction for those that are not comfortable sending their children at this time. I share this information with you tonight, but please know that we are working on many, many other details in order to bring our students and staff into our schools in the safest way possible. We also await additional information from Governor Cuomo in early August. We will communicate the details of our plans with the community by July 31st and throughout the month of August. We will send an additional survey to families in August so that we can gather specific information related to each student. And if anyone has any concerns or questions, please feel free to contact me. I would like to publicly thank all of our task force and committee members for the tireless work that they are doing. I thank everyone in the Riverhead Central School District community for your patience and your understanding during this difficult time in education and in society. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Tonin. Okay, so we're going to move along. Consent agenda. Can I have a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Thank you, Mr. Wallace. Can I have a second? Thank you,
Second.
Mr. Howsky. Mr. Dorr,
Yes.
Dr. Kukunis,
Yes.
Ms. Healy,
Yes.
Ms. Zahowski,
Yes.
Mr. Wallace,
Yes.
and myself is a yes. Okay, moving on to new business. Appointment of boat workers and special district meeting. Can I have a motion?
Motion.
Thank you, Mr. Dorr. Can I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Dr. Kukunis. Mr. Dorr,
Yes.
Dr. Kukunis,
Yes.
Ms. Healy,
Yes.
Ms. Zahowski,
Yes.
Mr. Wallace,
Yes.
and myself is a yes. Motion passes. Letter B, amendment of official monthly board meetings. Can I have a motion?
Motion.
Thank you, Mr. Wallace. Second, please.
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Healy. Mr. Dorr,
Yes.
Dr. Kukunis,
Yes.
Ms. Healy,
Yes.
Ms. Zahowski,
Yes.
Mr. Wallace,
Yes.
And myself is also a yes. Letter C, approval of funding of reserves. Can I have a motion, please?
Motion.
Can I have a second, please?
Second.
Thank you. Mr. Dorr,
Yes.
Dr. Kukunis,
Yes.
Ms. Healy,
Yes.
Ms. Zahowski,
Yes.
Mr. Wallace,
Yes.
and myself is a yes. Letter D, second reading of revised board policy. Can I have a motion, please?
Motion.
Thank you, Mr. Dorr. Second, please.
Second.
Thanks. Dr. Kukunis, was that you?
Yes.
It was you?
Yes.
Thank you, Dr. Kukunis. Mr. Dorr,
Yes.
Dr. Kukunis,
Yes.
Ms. Healy,
Yes.
Ms. Zahowski,
Yes.
Mr. Wallace,
Yes.
and myself is a yes. Now, letter E, which we had just added on. Can I have a motion, please?
I'll make a motion.
Thank you, Mr. Wallace. Second.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Dorr. Mr. Dorr?
Can I make a comment before we vote?
Sure. All right, go for it.
Can you read the resolution again, just in case somebody came on? I want to make sure this is.
Sure. The resolution is, be it resolved that the Board of Education of the Riverhead Central School District hereby authorizes its legal counsel to file a notice of claim and eventual lawsuit against the town of Riverhead for the failure of the town to pay the school district the entire 2019-2020 school year tax levy by June 30th, 2020, as required by law.
Thank you.
Okay, so we're taking a vote. Mr. Dorr,
Yes.
Dr. Kukunis,
Yes.
Ms. Healy,
Yes.
Ms. Zahowski,
Yes.
Mr. Wallace,
Yes.
and myself is a yes. We have no board member committee reports, right?
No.
But Ms. Zahowski, did you want to say something?
Yes, actually, I did want to make a comment about 5C, approval of funding reserves.
Okay.
Just give me 1 second, please. So I just wanted to clarify that the funds that we were discussing today were taken or appropriated from the repair reserve fund during the 2019-2020 school year for specific projects that were approved by the Board of Education. The repair reserve functions as a savings account, and money sits in the funds until such time as the administration suggests and the board approves specific projects in amounts not to exceed that specific number. The administration was able to complete the projects for less money than had been anticipated. Our vote today is to return the funds to the repair reserves for future use. And we can't use this money for any other purpose other than repair reserve projects because of the laws relating to the repair reserve fund. I wanted to say that prior to the vote, but so thank you. No, it's okay.
It's all good. It's
Yeah.
all good. Any other members have any remarks or comments?
Yes. I would like to, at a future board meeting, receive data on our ELL program on the numbers of students in each grade and how long they have been in the program and how many move out of the program in each year. That should be our goal of this program, is to move them from English language learners to English language speakers and out of the program. They should not be in that program for their entire school year, their school life. They should be in, learn English, and get out of the program. So I'd like to get that data.
We'll prepare that for the next meeting.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Toner. Anyone else have anything to talk about? No?
We have,
Yes, go ahead.
do we have a report from our CFA or no?
Yeah. was
Okay. No. I thought that you were looking for adjournment. I'm sorry, Mrs. Downs.
No, I didn't ask
And
for
we have
adjournment.
3 more public comments as well.
Had any more comments?
Jumping the gun.
RCFA, I got a little note here that was sent by the president. He says, good evening. As you know, we are in the process of framing out the process of reentry. It is the position of this organization, the RCFA, that we want our school to look like pre-pandemic education as soon as feasible. But while we are in the midst of the COVID-19 outbreak, the number one priority of the RCFA is the health and safety of our students, our members, and our school employees. There are a number of different ideas for scheduling and socially distant education. Although the RCFA does have input on what the schedule will look like, we will not endorse any specific schedule. Rather, our number one objective will be to advocate for the best learning conditions for our students during this crisis, with the largest emphasis placed on maintaining the health and safety of all stakeholders within whatever is set forth by the district. Lastly, the RCFA is in full support of the passage of the Riverhead Central School District's budget proposal on June 28th, and we hope that the voters of Riverhead agree with our sentiment. Thank you for your time. Gregory Wallace, RCFA President. I'd like to say I only want to approve things that are for the health and safety of our students too and our employees. That's my main concern also. And I'm sure the board is in the same mindset. So with that said, Dr. Kukunis, were you going to say something?
No, I agree, and I just ask that everybody please be patient. We're all on the same page, and this is a whole new situation for us, and we are, working tirelessly to have new plans put forward for whatever situation may be upon us come September. So please be patient and contribute. Provide us your feedback and move forward together. This is Riverhead, right?
That's right. Thank you, Dr. Kukunis. You said what a lot of us are thinking. So anybody else?
So we have 3 more public comments.
You got comments? Let's go.
You want me to read them?
Yes, please. I don't have them.
Okay. From Leah Petrignani in Aquabog, my concern is that Governor Cuomo will not yet allow in-person meetings, such as this Board of Ed meeting, which is being done virtually. How am I as a parent supposed to feel confident in sending my child back to school? I think we discussed that parents who don't feel comfortable sending their children back to school, we completely understand. There'll be plans in place for that option. But the health and safety of all of our students and staff is our number one priority during all of our planning. Ms. Petrignani asked 2 more questions. Will a full virtual option be available for parents who choose this option as they're not comfortable sending their child back to school yet, or have a child with a compromised immune system or family member at home with such? The answer to that is yes. And has the district considered a plan to delay opening of school by a few weeks, perhaps having all children attend virtually for a few weeks in order to plan for a safer, not as rushed return? School starts in 43 days. That is not a lot of planning time, especially when the state does not approve the plans till the first week in August. Well, we've been told that once we submit the plans, we are to consider that they're approved unless we hear otherwise. So once we submit the plan on the 31st, we're moving forward, and we'll be communicating details as they're developed with the community. And delaying school is an interesting concept. It's something that we've been discussing, but the fear is if we delay because we want to make our plans as perfect as possible, there's a chance by the time that they're ready, we'll be closed on a more permanent basis for everyone. And we want to make sure that The teachers, if we can, we want the teachers to have the opportunity to meet the students that are going to be their students this year in September, because everyone's going to be new coming in September. The teachers and students aren't going to know each other. So it's important for us to provide the students and the teachers that opportunity, because if we move to remote instruction, it will be that much more difficult if they haven't met in person. So thank you for your question. It's a difficult time and very difficult decisions, but please know that we are making decisions as seriously and as possible. So thank you.
Anyone? Okay, with that said, thank you, everybody, for submitting your questions and everything. Thank you to the board. Thank you, Ms. Toner. With that said, motion to adjourn.
Motion.
Thank you, Mr. Dorr. Second, please.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Howski. Mr. Dorr,
Yes.
Dr. Koukounis,
Yes.
Ms. Healy,
Yes.
Mr. Howski,
Yes.
Mr. Wallace,
Yes.
and myself is a yes. Good night, everybody.
Good
Have a
night.
good
All
one.
right.
Right.
Take care. Till next time.